Mr. Barcelona-Duval of the Bloc, and Mr. Backrack of the NDP. Mr. Scheer, floor is yours for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. You referenced a couple times in your opening remarks the intent of the Canadian Infrastructure Bank was to unlock private sector investment. So can you inform this committee to date how much private sector investment this bank has been able to secure?
Minister McKenna.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the member opposite, who is also my critic. It's great to see you here. And I have a list of projects in your riding that I know you'd be very interested. We've approved 43 projects worth over $763 million. The Canada Infrastructure Bank is moving forward on a number of really great projects. The one that is probably close to your heart is the investment in Alberta in irrigation. That's a great project with the government of Alberta, who clearly recognizes the critical importance of the Canada Infrastructure Bank in getting major projects built and bringing in the private sector. The REM project in Montreal, pour nos amis à Montréal, ils voient qu'il est en construction.
For our friends in Montreal, they see that this
project with the Caisse de dépôt that is moving forward. I can give you a whole range of examples of projects that are good projects going to make a difference.
Minister, I can find a list of those projects as well on the government's website, but the bank was designed in a very specific way. The bank was designed to not be a traditional funding envelope, but the promises were made that the bank would leverage private sector investment, that with the way that it was operating, the innovative way that you were designing this program was that not only would Canadian tax dollars be put into these projects, but private sector investment in the ownership of these types of projects would follow. So a very simple question, you must keep track of this. How much private sector investment has been committed to the projects that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank is currently involved in?
Minister?
Well, I just want to confirm that I totally agree that the bank has an important role in attracting private sector investment, in particular institutional investors, because that's our workers' dollars at work, Canadian worker dollars. So if we look at the REM project, which is an investment with the Caisse de dépôt, that's $3 billion that the Caisse de dépôt has invested. But also, I mean, I think it's not just about bringing in the private sector. It's actually getting good projects built in the public interest. That's why we got the bank, because we can actually get more infrastructure built.
But in fairness, you haven't gotten any built. This bank has been around for almost 4 years now. You've completed 0 projects. The criticism of the Réseau project was that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank's commitment was just replacing what normally would have been allocated from different funding envelopes within Infrastructure Canada. You've got 12 or 13 projects up on the Canadian Infrastructure Bank's website. Many of these projects, the current status is just providing advisory services or memorandums of understanding. So the question is, where is all this private sector investment? What is the total amount? Promises were made about unleashing and leveraging 2 times, 4 times private sector investment. This is a $35 billion bank. How much private sector investment has been committed through the Canadian Infrastructure Bank's current list of projects?
Minister?
So, alors je vais répondre en français.
I'm going to answer in French because I think it's really important. I think that the government of Quebec is very proud of the REM project with the investment of some $3 billion almost, from the Caisse de dépôt. Working with the government of Quebec and institutional investors.
Transit project in Quebec in over 50 years, 680,000 tons of greenhouse gases reduced over 25 years, 34,000 jobs. These are really important projects, and the bank is advancing on a whole range of projects.
I'm asking for a total amount of private sector investment. That's the question. Not just, we can all agree. Our party made commitments to public transit. We committed to expanding the GO line. We've made commitments for infrastructure in Montreal and those types of public transits. But here's the thing with the Infrastructure Bank. This was supposed to be a marquee institution. This was a marquee project. This was the Prime Minister's brilliant new innovative way to build a country. I mean, your government courted investors worth hundreds of billions of dollars, the richest bankers, the wealthiest hedge fund managers. You even held a fancy party with all the bells and whistles at the Shangri-La Hotel trying to unlock $16 trillion in institutional funds that you claimed were floating around the world waiting to invest. And so far, you haven't been able to complete a single thing. Your government, your ministers, your CEOs at the bank have all made amazing claims that the $35 billion that the infrastructure bank has worth of taxpayers' money would be able to unlock 2 times, 4 times, even 7 times the investment from the private sector. You've got a dozen or so projects listed on your website. Most of those are at the memorandum of understanding phase or the advisory services phase. It doesn't seem to me that providing advisory services on a project is going to unleash and unlock that private sector investment. So where is all this private sector money that you claimed would be coming in to take an ownership position to replace the need for taxpayers' money? In other words, a total, not just one project, but total. So we can evaluate if you're hitting your own metric. Your own metric is at least 2 times, maybe 4 times private sector investment. So what is the grand total of private sector investment in ownership of the projects that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank is currently involved in?
Minister McKenna.
So I'd like to clarify a number of things. So the idea of a Canada Infrastructure Bank came from the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. But this is an idea about how do you get more infrastructure built. I would hope that the member opposite, being from a Conservative party, would think that it's a good idea to work with our pension funds, some of the largest investors
Just haven't
in
got it
infrastructure.
done. That's the problem. You've got 0
Well,
projects completed.
I think that the member opposite is probably sophisticated enough to understand that projects don't get built in a day, and that actually advisory services matter because you actually need to develop the projects, and that we are moving ahead. And if you look at the REM project, it brought